Hello guys, it's Chamaster. Today I'm doing a Bottleman ranking video. I'm going to be ranking all 14 of the original system Bottlemen, just because why not? This is my own personal opinion on how good they are, so if you have disagreeing viewpoints, feel free to put them in the comments. I might remake this video eventually if I did bad enough, but I think I'm relatively correct here, for the most part, probably. With that said, this will not include DX stuff or fusions. DX will be its own video once that's, done, and I'll rank every DX Bottleman. Fusions like Blend Dragon and Premium Salifier are excluded. Those will eventually be their own video. I just want to talk about fusions and just kind of how effective they are. So yeah, just the 14 originals. Also, these are based in their stock forms. I might reference the idea of adding on a magazine or something, but they are based on their stock forms in terms of their position on the list, so just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get into the list. Coming at number 14, we have Fusion Black. In my opinion, the worst. So this guy just does not have anything. Its trigger is too long for it to really fire very fast, which is a bit of a problem because this thing has no power at all. And that's probably the best thing it'd be good with. The power on this thing is just subpar, and it's a power type too, so it's a little bit funny there. Control's fine enough, but it's just worse than pretty much anything else in my opinion. The trigger also has a tendency to get a little bit jammed, which just makes this thing even worse. Yeah, even just pressing it now, it feels like it wants to almost just lock right here and not come back, but there's a cap inside, so it's not doing that. But anyway, this part up here falls off very easily. A lot of times, when you're firing, it just tends to fall off. That's really annoying. So overall, while it's not exactly you could say it's not the worst thing. Some people might argue that the trigger, I'm making it sound worse than it is. Even if you do have some kind of amazing trigger with this thing, this part's always just going to fall off. That is a consistent mold issue. And it's just probably not going to beat any other power types. So why bother with this thing when it has really bad quality control issues? And even for a power type is just mediocre. Some people also complain about the grip being too big. Some people like it. Personally, I like it because you have a nice, large grip. You can see I have a nice comfortable spot for my hands on the trigger. Nice, wide grip for my hands. This is good and bad. This is kind of more of a neutral thing, but again, some people are, normal size. They're not me. They're not 6'7" with giant hands. Then again, some people do like these kind of grips. It's kind of a weird toss-up, but, I wish maybe we just had some more customization options for grips. That'd be nice, but we don't. So, yeah. If you want a big grip, this is kind of the best thing you have, but unfortunately, with the kind of wide size and the long trigger, I could see why people sometimes just don't like this grip. So, yeah. It's just a really, really strange Bottleman, but I feel like there's just too many oddities with it, and there's not enough payoff, so I'm just going to throw this guy at the bottom of the list. I probably won't disagree with anyone who says it's, better than I'm saying it is, but I really don't think it's that great regardless. And again, there's just too many issues that put this thing any higher. This will probably be the longest Bottleman that I talk about, just because I kind of need to make a case for it, but yeah. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on with the list. Number 13, Samus. Samus is a Bottleman that I really want to like. This trigger's pretty fast, and you have the rollers, so it's a pretty good speed type. You also have a second cap capacity here with how these arms are made. It shoots pretty well. Shots are decently powerful, they're pretty straight, and again, you can shoot very fast. The problem is this trigger jams way too easily. This has been a consistent problem with Samus, and it's just so annoying. It had potential to probably be at least around the middle of the list, if not maybe even top half, which is saying a lot, but the problem is when every other Bottleman on this list is at least functional and doesn't constantly have jamming issues, I can't really say that this goes any higher than this. It just This trigger, like literally I just pushed it back now, and you can see I already had to kind of reset it. See that? It just, this is what happens, is it just kind of gets stuck right there. Sometimes it doesn't, other times it does. It just works way too inconsistently, and considering it's supposed to be a speed type, when you want to rapid fire shots, when this happens and you have to constantly push it back out, even if it's easy, it really slows you down and just makes you want to use something else that's a little bit better. So it gets stuck in this spot. Number 12, Kerps. Another weird one. Kerps really isn't bad. Honestly, it shoots pretty hard. It's actually a really strong power type. But the problem is, you know, you don't really have any extra speed, so it's not that fast. I guess that's fine though, but I tend to have control issues with this thing. It tends to shoot kind of awkwardly, and it doesn't always shoot the most consistently straight. It almost seems like the caps almost go diagonally sometimes, which is weird. I don't know what's up with that. But it's really strong, and I would put it higher, but there's nothing else to this thing. Also, there are stronger things out there, so considering its gimmick, which is useless, it's supposed to be like this elevation change gimmick, it just does nothing. Like, you should not use that at all. It makes it worse, so when it's, I mean, yeah, it's strong, but there's another Bottleman out there that is a lot stronger and also just more consistent than this thing. And with a gimmick that doesn't work, it kind of just gets stuck here. So, yeah. Number 11, Gyak Rock. Gyak Rock is fine. It's very average. It shoots powerfully enough. I mean, you can get it a little bit. It's not like the slowest thing out there, but it's not overly fast. It controls pretty well. You have, you know, this sort of sword barrel that doesn't do a whole lot. I guess it helps a little bit. This can help you aim. I guess the swords can help you line up too, but it's just kind of alright overall. Everything about this thing, its gimmicks and its, you know, performance, like everything about this thing is just okay. Also, it's worth noting that you should never use this guy in this color scheme. Get a recolor. This original one will break way too easily. And that's just a little bit of a problem, you know? You want something that can actually, you know, last. So, recommend getting something else that, you know, is a recolor of this guy. So you can, you know, use it for more than, like, 2 shots before it breaks. So, yeah. Also, there are a couple others like this. Well, primarily one more, which I'll mention. Kind of a third one. I will admit, I did use a recolor for testing, just because I wanted to make sure, you know, it didn't break on me. It's the same thing, it's just, you know, a stronger mold. So, definitely use that if you can. So, yeah. Kind of the best bog standard Bottleman to rate these guys on, I guess. So, it was good for that at least. Number 10. Colamaru. Another pretty standard one. I just think Colamaru is a little bit more powerful, just a little bit better overall. Again, extra power is nice. Control, I think, still is good enough. That's kind of all there is to him. He's not a whole lot different than Gyak Rock, I guess, for the most part, because neither one of them is too crazy in any regard, but I would probably rather use him over Gyak Rock, but yeah. But again, he just kind of ends up here. He's an early Bottleman, and it kind of shows, honestly. Again, this is kind of the other Bottleman that I was talking about. Do not use this color, use a recolor. This thing will break very, very easily. So, yeah. Overall, just another pretty Bottleman. Definitely better out there. Number 9. Saladfire. Saladfire is a bit of an oddball because it is a speed type, but there's no magazine. It's honestly unfortunate because this thing has a really good core. It shoots decently strong, it's very, very accurate, and you could definitely shoot fast if you had a magazine, there just isn't one. Its gimmicks are these 2 kind of ball-like things on the feet, wing things, I don't know what these are, And this is a soft server, so it's not going to work that well. But, you know, it does move around well if you want to. Not the most effective gimmick, but I guess it can be useful slightly. It's not that great, but I guess it's not completely worthless like, you know, Kerps. It at least does something. If this thing had a magazine, it'd probably be pretty good, but it doesn't. So it does shoot well, and I'd honestly rather use it over Colamaru and Gyak Rock just as a single shot Bottleman, but like, there's just better things out there. Number 8, CC Leon. CC Leon is, well, weird because its gimmick does nothing, but it ranked kinda high. I mean, this is kind of the last spot on the bottom half of the list. It almost got to the top half. So it shoots really well. You know, it shoots very straight. I mean, if you put a magazine on it, it'd be at least decently fast. But also, it has pretty solid power as well. I actually think this is a really good Bottleman in general, as a core at least. The problem is its gimmick. This thing doesn't work. You should not use it. The idea is that you can move it around, but it falls off every time. So its gimmick, just don't bother with it. But again, its core, it's like Saladfire. It has a really, really good core, I think, and it could have definitely been a bit higher up. Maybe not like beating out some of the like top like 3 or 4, but like it would have gotten a lot closer, I'd say. At least jumped a few spots up, but again, its gimmick does absolutely nothing, and it should not be used. But the core is at least good, so I guess there is still some merit to this guy. Number 7, getting into the top half of the list, is Sparking Knight. Sparking Knight is good, so it shoots decently strong. It actually isn't too slow either. This kind of rail, I think, helps a little bit with the speed. And it is accurate, but it has this weird tendency to shoot upwards. I don't know why it does this. However, the sight up here, when you look straight through it, it tends to hit its target. But it's very weird how it does that. I don't know why it shoots upwards like this, and I did look at some stuff and it kind of, it just does that. I looked at some other videos. It does have this weird arc to it. I do think it actually, because of how the sight works, that is kind of a benefit, but I feel like, again, in some ways it's just a little bit too awkward, and I feel like there's just other Bottlemen on this list that I think are just a little bit more consistent, that can hit their targets without having kind of this awkward arc sight gimmick. This might just be me. I might be looking way too far into it, but I feel like, it just feels a little bit too awkward to put to place higher on this list. If I could talk properly, that'd be great. But anyway, yeah, it just feels a little too awkward to place higher on this list. If someone wants to say that it's better than it is, I wouldn't argue with them. It's definitely top half. I don't think it should be lower. But I just think there's other stuff on this list that functions a bit better than this, so I'm putting it lower than I otherwise maybe would have. I don't know. This thing's just really, really weird, and yeah, I think this is a pretty fair spot for it, though. Coming in at number 6 is the meme itself, Dual Gold. Dual Gold is a little bit funny because it's hilariously rare and expensive, and its only real gimmicks are the rollers that any speed type would have. It's also technically a multi-type, but really, it's not a multi-type. It just kind of has nothing going on, and it's really just that it doesn't have a type. It's really funny. However, it actually has a really good core. This thing shoots kind of similar to Saladfire, where it just shoots, it can be quick, and it's also just really consistently straight and pretty powerful. It also hits, core is a little bit better than Saladfire's. Initially, I was thinking about putting this, maybe only a slot above, but I think it's actually a decent bit better. But the problem is, it's very similar to Aqua Sports. I would say, in terms of the Dual Gold core compared to the Aqua Sports core, I think that they're really close. And I obviously haven't gone over Aqua Sports yet, and it's going to be later in the list. Of course, it has to be somewhere. However, There's a key issue here. Sure, it's either as good or nearly as good as Aqua Sports, but that's the core. There's no magazine here. There's only a single shot. You have the grooves to attach a magazine, and if you're crazy enough to buy dual gold, you probably have an Aqua Sports. But it doesn't change the fact that it doesn't come with one. If you attach down here, it's basically just like Aqua Sports. Either, again, as good or very, very slightly worse. But, I mean, a slightly worse Aqua Sports is, like, still really, really good, so who cares? I put it at number 6 because it is a great core. It's just that Aqua Sports really just outdoes this thing. But I still feel like it earns a spot, at least to be pretty high. But it's funny because even though it's this high, it's still, in my opinion, the most useless Bottleman because, you know, it just kind of doesn't do anything else. So, yeah, it's just kind of here. That's what it does. It exists. Has a good core and exists. Just, yeah, that's kind of all there is to it. Number 5, Wonder Grape. Wonder Grape shoots vertically, that's something. It's the only normal Bottleman to do this, you know, well, non-DX. So, yeah, vertical shots. I do notice that if you shoot long range, like very long range, it can be a bit unreliable, but I don't think you're going to be shooting that far anyway. But for normal use, it shoots pretty strong and also very straight. This thing also doesn't feel too awkward to shoot or anything, so it isn't too slow either. I actually like the loading mechanism here. You just kind of pop them down into this little, like, there's like this little blue plastic, you could see it in there. Kinda. It pushes downward, which actually makes it, I would say, jam the least of any Bottleman, because when you place it in there, there's a slight bit of resistance, but it's not hard to put in. It's like a bare minimum resistance, but when you load it up, it's not gonna jam, so that's very, very nice. But yeah, it's just a very powerful and consistent Bottleman, and I think its gimmick, while maybe vertical caps aren't the most practical thing ever, this thing does it pretty well, and I think, you know, warrants being a very, very high slot, because if you shoot strong and consistent, you know, in the vertical caps, I think it has a place. No other Bottleman does it, so unlike some of the others, that I think like Dual Gold, you know, Saladfire, whatever, those types of things are kind of close to this thing because, you know, in terms of power and consistency, but like, those kind of get outclassed in my opinion. This thing does not, because it's the only one to do vertical cap shooting, and it does it really, really well. So, yeah. Regardless of the practicality of it, it somehow manages to work well here. Number 4, Skull Pistol. So, I mentioned earlier how there are, you know, some Bottlemen that were kind of just good points to be average. This is just a very, very good overall Bottleman. Shots are pretty powerful, doesn't take too long to shoot, and the shots are very consistent. Plus, you have a nice little sort of sight up here, you got a barrel. It's just really good overall. It doesn't do anything exceptionally well, you know. Well, I guess it controls pretty well and has good power, but it's not like insane, you know. But there aren't really any weaknesses with this thing. Like, even with Wonder Grape, mention how, you know, it drops off. Or like with Dual Gold, there's no magazine compared to Aqua Sports. This thing, yeah, it's just good. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It's just a really good and solid Bottleman. So it's nice to see something like this. Number 3, Rising Milk. This guy has a giant magazine, so it shoots decently powerfully, you know, pretty fast as well, has decent control. However, it has 8 caps. You can shoot 8 caps without having to reload. That is insane. So, having to shoot 8 caps, you know, that automatically puts this thing high on the list. It does sometimes have jamming issues, and you have to kind of like ride a little bit sometimes to get the caps to move. So there are some problems with this thing, you know. Sometimes the caps don't like to fall, or they get a little bit stuck, so you have to kind of, you know, hit the trigger a couple times to get them to fall straight into the thing so you could shoot. It definitely has its oddities, and those are definitely drawbacks, but the thing is, you can shoot 8 caps at once. You could just have this sort of hellfire of caps, and it doesn't matter. You have a ton of capacity. And because of that, yeah, this thing just has to rate high. Like, it literally gets this slot because it is hilarious to how many caps you could shoot. Magazines are a very big issue with Bottleman because, well, in the original series, there were no magazines released, outside of the ones you can get through, other Bottlemen. So, like, capacity is a huge problem. So, when something, has this kind of capacity, it has to rate high regardless of, some issues. Obviously, if it had crazy issues like Fusion, Black, or Samus, it would not be ranking this high regardless. But, like, they're not that big of a deal. And plus, most Bottlemen just have a capacity of 1. Samus only has 2, Aqua Sports has 3, this thing has 8. So, you gotta put it somewhere high up. And I'm putting it here because, yeah, capacity is just ridiculous on this thing. And, yeah, that's kind of why, kind of the only reason it gets this high. I mean, yeah, it's obviously solid enough, so, it could rank high regardless, but, like, yeah, no, just capacity gets it stupidly high. Number 2, the runner-up. Probably a controversial one, but I am putting it here anyway. This is 10 Satan. So, this thing does not shoot very fast, because it is, stupidly powerful. So, yeah, you don't have the fastest shots here. However, they do tend to be pretty straight, maybe slightly inconsistent, but not too bad. However, the power on this thing is just absolutely ridiculous. Most other things on this list, I think, are hard countered by the number 1 pick, because it just has such consistent, accuracy and power, also good speed. This thing does not have that type of stuff going for it, and can't just one-up everything on its own, but my god, the power of this thing is just ridiculous. So when you have one Bottleman that kind of just one-ups most other things, having something powerful enough to just annihilate anything else in a contest of power, I think, yeah, this thing it has to be placing decently high. And I put it at number 2. Some people might disagree with me on that, but you know what? It's fine. This thing is just stupid with how powerful it is. Power Ring has to help to some regard, which is nice, and yeah. It is something else. I feel like it's hard to really show how strong this thing can shoot without shooting it, but yeah, this thing is in a league of its own in terms of power. Number 1, the best Bottleman. It's Aqua Sports. This was not a surprise. Solid power, good accuracy, very fast, also just very consistent. You have 3 caps to shoot. You don't have the crazy capacity or crazy power like slots 2 and 3 on the list, but you know what? It kind of beats out every other Bottleman in my opinion with pretty much anything else. I mean, overall, yeah, it just beats everything. Those 2 are a little bit special, but yeah, this thing, it just manages to be very consistent and good. It just does everything so well to where, yeah, this is just the best Bottleman. Plus, with that 3 cap capacity, you can't go wrong. Since, again, cap capacity is a big issue with Bottleman, and, well, having 3, that's technically the second most. So there you go. And, yeah, this thing, ever since day 1, it was just the best. I will recommend using a different mold, though. This thing is definitely the strongest of the original 3, however. Yeah, use a different mold. If you get the gold one or like the white one from the random collection, use those instead. This one, it's at least not completely terrible, unlike the other 2, but still, you have to be mindful of the, breakage issues. And again, like the other 2, I did use a recolor to test, just because I didn't want to risk breaking this. But yeah, that's that. That is my Bottleman tier list, so let me know what you think of this tier list. Let me know if I am wrong, if there's anything you would change the spots of. Or maybe if I managed to just get some fact wrong, but maybe somehow landed right on the tier list, let me know that as well. Just let me know if I'm wrong, basically, or I guess if you happen to agree, but I feel like there's 14 of these things. I don't think everything's going to go flawlessly, so yeah, let me know your thoughts. And if I do more of these in the future, should I do anything differently? I don't know. Should I have like a proper scaling system? Let me know. I do plan to do another one of these with DX. So, yeah. Anyways, that's all for this video. So, thanks for watching. And bye.